Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes.
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And if you guys haven't been out to a game to Subaru Park this season, what are you guys doing? That place is electric. That's the place to be this summer. Because when you look at it, in the Philadelphia Union's last 5 home games, they have scored 20 goals. And the only teams in MLS history that have scored more goals in a 5-game span is LAFC in 2019. They had 22. And in 1998 and 2015, LA Galaxy also scored 22 goals. So if you want electricity, if you want high scoring, great defense, a winning team in Philadelphia, then get out to a Philadelphia Union game. And let me remind you, the Philadelphia Union are the only team in MLS this season that is still undefeated at home. So odds are, if you go to Subaru Park for your first game, you're probably not going to see them lose at home. They've been fantastic to watch at home this season. And a huge shout out to the Sons of Ben, Keystone State Ultras, for the atmosphere they created Saturday night against Chicago Fire. And it's not just that game. Both supporters groups have brought energy every single game this season. But, we're seeing so far throughout the summer months that fans are coming out. A lot of fans are coming out for the very first time. Like I said, it's the place to be this summer. And I know I don't have to convince any of you guys listening to this podcast, I'm sure, to go out to a game to Subaru Park, because odds are majority of you people have been to a game this season. But just in case this is your first time ever listening to this podcast, definitely get out to a game to Subaru Park. Or even if you're not a fan of the Philadelphia Union, I think putting down Subaru Park for one of the stadiums that you should visit in MLS, that should be up there in your bucket list. And I know this is a Philadelphia Union podcast, definitely biased, but 18,500 fans, they definitely bring the noise every single game, and it's a great place to be. And super happy that I was finally able to return to Subaru Park this Saturday. As you guys know, I missed the Houston game because of COVID. And then my sister and I flew out to Cincinnati to watch that Cincinnati game. And my sister said to me, she's like, this stadium's super nice in Cincinnati. But she's like, I really do like Subaru Park. It feels really intimate. And you just feel like you're a family there. Not saying that that's not the case at TQL Stadium, but I think there is something to it where, at least in our perspective, everybody in our section, when I decided to sit in the supporters section in my season ticket seat, everybody's just really, really welcoming. Everybody gets along, and it's a great atmosphere. And I probably don't have to sell you guys on going to games, and I know I'm trying to do that, but yeah, seriously, get out to a game to Subaru Park. It's one of the best stadiums in MLS. People will make you feel like you're at home. Not that they didn't do that in Cincinnati. The people in Cincinnati were definitely very welcoming. That wasn't really the case in DC when I went last year. Atlanta, some of the fans, but Cincinnati, definitely up there with the best fans that I've encountered in MLS. But before we talk about news, and there isn't a ton of news, I want to talk about Saturday night, my experience Saturday night. And I don't, when I talk to people in person, I introduce myself as Todd. I never say, oh yeah, I do a podcast called The Free Kick, because I always feel like, and maybe it's not what it is at all, but I don't know, like, I always convince myself that, I never want to plug my podcast, what I do, because I don't want to come off as, oh, I'm better than you or anything like that. Not that I do. I don't think I do, but I don't know. I convinced myself that's how it is. And I know it's not, but it's so crazy to me that and this Saturday had a couple people come up to me for the first time at the tailgate, the Sons of Ben tailgate, and introduce themselves, ask me, "Am I Todd? Hey, are you Free Kick Podcast?" And yeah, that was like really cool. I've never had that before, and it was just a really cool experience meeting people for the first time that listen to the podcast, and of course, talking to people that I've known for a while, just meeting up with them at the tailgate. It was cool meeting up with Renee Turner for the very first time. We met each other when I played with the Brotherly Game like 2 months ago, a month ago in the Casa tournament. And I was like, oh, Renee, he came up to me. I was like, what's up, man? So it just felt really, really cool having people come up to me, recognizing me inside the stadium too. I was like, this is definitely weird that people, I guess, know who I am because of my voice. And you guys know I don't post video of the podcast; it's all audio. And so, like the only way people would know who I am is one, if you go on Twitter or whatever and look at my profile picture, then you can see who I am. Or two, my voice, I guess, is unique. And yeah, I was just like really blown away. My sister was, I think, a little bit caught off guard, like, oh, people actually know who you were. That was really, really cool. And people telling me, oh, I appreciate what you do. And that means a lot because, yeah, it's nice to hear it from friends and everything, but from people that you're meeting for the very first time that say, yeah, I appreciate what you're doing with the podcast. You do great work. Um, yeah, it definitely makes all of this worth it. And then, as you guys know, I told you last week that I wanted to get on Tyler Terrence to preview this game. Tyler obviously didn't come on the podcast because I found out later during the week that Tyler was calling the MLS All-Star game for Sirius XM's soccer channel. And I didn't even know that Chicago Fire's broadcast team was going to be at Subaru Park calling the game because most broadcast teams have not been at Subaru Park this season. Only Chicago's and Cincinnati's, from people that I've had on the podcast so far this season. They're the only people that I've met at Subaru Park this season. And so walking around the press area and I see Tony Miola. And you guys all know who Tony Miola is, former MetroStar goalkeeper, USMT goalkeeping legend. And I see Tony and I'm like, okay, look, if Tony's here, and then Tyler Terrence definitely has to be here. So I'm like, okay, let me just walk up to Tony and ask him, hey, look, is Tyler Terrence here? So I got to talking with Tony Miola, and that was just a freaking amazing moment. Something that I don't know. I didn't expect to ever meet Tony Miola, and that guy is gigantic. I'm like, dude, how are you? How were you a goalkeeper and you're this big? Like, that guy is a massive. And I was like, hey, is Tyler Terrence here with you? And he's like, yeah, he is. I was like, hey, do you mind if I come into your broadcast studio and introduce myself, see Tyler? He's like, yeah, come on in. And so as soon as I walk through the door, Tyler comes over to me. And granted, we've only ever met in Zoom. It's our first time ever meeting in person. And he comes up to me. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. Just kept apologizing. He's like, that I never returned your text. I was calling the game for Sirius for the All-Star game. I was like, dude, you don't have to apologize. And so it was really freaking cool to meet Tony Miola, Tyler Terrence for the first time in person. And Tyler's just apologizing. I'm like, dude, you do not need to apologize. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry for not coming on the podcast. I'll come on the podcast whenever you want me to. Just hit me up. I would definitely come on. And yeah, we'll just talk. Whatever you want, man. I got you. I'm like, dude, it is okay. But yeah, that was so awesome meeting those two. And then after the game, going to the press conference, there was only 5 of us in the press conference, and 4 out of the 5 of us asked questions. And I asked 3 questions, and I was like, this never happens. But I don't know. I guess on the night I was feeling really confident. And like, if it's sounding like I'm bragging, like, I'm not trying to brag at all, but I'm sure you guys can hear in my voice, like, Saturday night was perfect. Like, I can't believe, uh, like I said, got to meet so many people for the very first time that listened to the podcast, meaning Tony and Tyler, and then asking 3 questions in Jim Curtin's press conference. Hardly ever ask when the players are up on the stand. I hardly ever ask them questions. Somehow found it in me to ask Daniel Gazdag a question. And yeah, I was just feeling really, really confident on the night. And then after the press conference, only me and Greg Oldfield with the Brotherly Game went into the locker room. And Jim Curtin comes up to us and gives us knuckles. And he's like, "Hey, thanks so much, guys, for coming out. Really appreciate it." And I was like, that has never happened to me before. Like, I've never interacted one on one with Jim Curtin like this. Is freaking unbelievable. And then I wanted to talk to Corey Burke because, as we all know, Corey Burke celebrated with eating a banana once he scored. And I wanted to ask Corey Burke about what that celebration was all about. Corey Burke apparently left right after the game, so Corey Burke wasn't available to speak with the media because he wasn't at the stadium anymore. The Union were going to make him available, but he just wasn't at the stadium anymore. So I couldn't ask Corey Burke that question, try to ask around, and really haven't got a definitive answer to who that celebration was towards. Was it towards Chicago fans, Union fans? It definitely wasn't towards the Chicago bench because when Corey Burke was eating the banana, he wasn't looking at the Chicago bench, wasn't looking at their players, nobody. He was looking towards Union fans. And so I don't want to say that that was directed towards Union fans because I haven't got confirmation from anybody what that was about. And I'm not going to speculate or anything like that until Corey Burke comes out and specifically says who he was directing that towards. The only thing we know is Corey Burke said that there was racism. Racism doesn't belong in the game, but he doesn't say who was racist towards him. And it sucks. I tried so hard to get answers to this, but nothing's confirmed. So, like I said, not going to speculate. But going back to in the locker room, so I got to talk to Leon Flach. Leon Flach comes up to us, gives us knuckles, said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And I was like, "Okay, this is freaking awesome." And then after the press conference, after the interview with Leon Flach, he gives knuckles again and thanks us both for wanting to speak with him. And I was like, "This is like." This is the perfect end to the night where, like I said, for whatever reason, I was so confident on the night and I really wanted to just ask questions, I guess, just be a proper journalist. And yeah, that's I guess what I was on the night. I just I don't know, like I don't want to ramble anymore. And like I said, if it seems like I'm bragging, I'm really not trying to brag. Like I just want to explain my night because of how excited it made me. And yeah, it was unbelievable. And again, I mean, I say it all the time. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast, interacting with me in social media, sharing the podcast all the time, leaving reviews on Spotify, Apple. Because I see you guys are definitely leaving those reviews, and I really, really appreciate it. And I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know why you guys do it. Listen to the podcast every single week, listening to it just be me talking, giving my thoughts on the Union. But week in, week out, you guys show out, and I'm forever grateful for that. And by the way, if you guys haven't checked out Growing Up Union, that is a podcast with Billy Myers and his son Anjum. They interviewed different people throughout MLS, and it's really, really unique. Where at the end of the podcast, uh, whoever Billy and Anjum have on the podcast, they read a book to Anjum, and the whole podcast really has nothing to do with soccer. It's about people's childhoods, asking how they were in school, what they were like growing up, and it was a really, really deep conversation I had with Billy and Anjum. Uh, I told Billy it felt like it was therapy, honestly. Like Billy asked some hard hitting questions, and so if you guys haven't checked out my interview, I'll go ahead and leave the link in the show description. And I'll leave a link to Billy's show in general so you guys can check it out. Um, I think I was one of Billy's worst guests when you guys look at the next couple guests that he has lined up for the podcast. So I'm definitely on the totem pole all the way at the bottom compared to some of these people Billy has coming up on his podcast. And that's definitely something that, like I said, it's not really a sports podcast. It's about people within MLS, whether it's broadcasters, journalists, other podcasters. It's definitely something you guys should check out. So, like I said, it'll be in the show description. But like I said, we have some news that's really not news. And so I want to get to that before we talk about the game against Chicago Fire, breaking down the stars of the night, goal breakdown, and then blunder of the week. So without further ado, let's get straight into the news. All right, so starting off, this is, I really want this to be the last time that I talk about the Kai Wagner news. It's been blowing up on Twitter today, recording the podcast on Monday, seeing a whole bunch of accounts in England tweeting about Kai Wagner potentially signing for Leeds United. And so this really took off again last Thursday, Friday, whenever Jim Curtin's midweek press conference was, because there was reports from Manuel Veth that Leeds United was still interested in Kai Wagner. And so you had the British media, Leeds United fans reporting a fee of $3 million. That's how much Kai's going to cost. And I'm sitting here thinking, no, that's not it at all. Because those fans, British media, are quoting Transfer Market's value. And I just want to make it clear, because there's not a ton of people in England listening to the podcast, and I doubt, the people that are listening to the podcast in England, I doubt you guys are Leeds United fans. But if you are, that hasn't been updated. Transfer Market hasn't been updated since November of 2021. And Manuel Veth, the founder of Transfer Market, he comes out and says that, yeah, if he had to put a value on Kai Wagner right now, he would say that Kai's around $5 million. And I do agree with Manuel that it's definitely not $3 million. And Mike Thomas, you guys have heard him multiple times on this podcast. He asked Union fans, what they would value Kai Wagner at. And so many fans came out and gave a whole bunch of different values on Kai. And Mike came out, he said, $5 million, I think, if Kai's loaned back to the Union. I think that's fair. $7 to $8 million plus incentives if no loan back. And, a ton of fans gave their thoughts. And I think the one that I agree the most with is, all right, so if the Union sold Kai Wagner right now and then got him back on loan, I think that the Union would get around $5 to $7 million. If it is no loan, if it's a permanent deal, then I see the Union getting $8 to $10 million. And then if the Union do wait until January, $3 to $5 million is what the Union are going to get. I think it's clear, if the Union do wait until the winter transfer window, that's going to be Kai Wagner's lowest value. And I think it's possible that the Union do sell him in January, but with all the talk right now, with all the reports right now linking Kai Wagner to Leeds, I can see Kai Wagner for sure going to Leeds United. I know there's been reports that Benfica are interested in him. There's another club, I forget where, in Russia maybe, in Croatia. I forget exactly where that other club was, but two other clubs that we haven't seen. We've seen a ton of clubs in the Premier League, in the Championship, in the Bundesliga get linked with Kai Wagner, but then you throw in two new clubs, and then you have Manuel reporting that, Leeds United are still interested in Kai Wagner. And so I thought it was interesting, too, where the British media are reporting that Leeds left back, Firpo, will be ready in 2 weeks, according to Jesse Marsh. And so my thoughts on that is, okay, look, if he's ready in 2 weeks, then Leeds United don't really need a left back. I see a lot of Leeds United fans saying they need a striker more than they need a left back. They've been playing a center back as a left back. And I know over the weekend, I don't have Peacock. I didn't watch the game, but a lot of people were complaining that, yeah, they looked a little bit exposed on the left side of the field, Leeds United. And yeah, maybe they could use a new left back right now. But my whole thinking is, look, Jim Curtin confirmed that he has had conversations with Jesse Marsh in regards to Kai Wagner. And so I think Jim Curtin admitting that he's had conversations with Jesse Marsh, I feel like that's what's really blown this whole thing up. And then like I said, you had Manuel come out and tweet that Leeds United are still in Kai Wagner. But if it wasn't for Manuel coming out tweeting that, then Jim Curtin wouldn't have been asked about Kai Wagner. He wouldn't have admitted to him and Jesse Marsh having conversations about Kai Wagner. But that's exactly what he does. And so my thinking is, Jesse Marsh would bring in Kai Wagner to compete against Fairpro. Jesse would give Kai every chance there is to start because he'll want his guys to prove that they can play. Because if his guys can play, then the owners will keep giving Jesse Marsh money to spend on the squad. But if Jesse Marsh's players don't pan out, there's already pressure on Jesse Marsh because he's American. But if the signings that he's made so far this summer don't pan out, then there's even more pressure on him. And so if he was to bring in Kai Wagner, he's definitely going to give him every single chance to compete for that left back spot. And keep in mind, Fairpro wasn't Jesse's signing. He's inherited a squad where a lot of these players on the team were from the previous manager, Bielsa. And so we've seen a ton of new players get brought into Jesse Marsh's squad this summer. He's bringing in his players. And so I'm fully convinced if Kai Wagner does indeed go to Leeds United, he would be given every opportunity to compete. But because Leeds United's left back's going to be ready in 2 weeks, I can see Leeds United buying Kai Wagner now and then loaning Kai Wagner to us until November. And if the Union sell now, but include a loan back, then we all know, like I said, they're going to get a cheaper fee than they would if they were to sell Kai Wagner permanently. But what the Union can't do, they cannot sell Kai Wagner in January, in my opinion, because they're going to get the lowest fee possible. And so to maximize that fee, you've got to sell permanently right now. But I don't see the Union selling permanently. Ernst Tenner and Jim Curtin are going to make sure that the Union are in the best possible place that they can be before they commit to offloading Kai Wagner. The Union are still competing for MLS Cup, and so Jim Curtin admitted that, him and Ernst are going to do what's best for the club, not what's best for Leeds United. They're going to do what's best for the Philadelphia Union. And so I think what's best for the Philadelphia Union is keeping Kai here until MLS Cup is done, until they get knocked out of the playoffs, and then sell him to Leeds United. So, yeah, it would, in my opinion, the best deal for the Union, the best deal for Leeds United would be by now loan him to the Union until November, and then you still have Kai Wagner for a majority of the season in the Premier League. Now, I know there's some talk that it could be the agent drumming up more interest, which I have thought about, but ultimately, I think, I think we probably do see Leeds United submit a bid sometime soon, but what that bid will be, I'm not sure what it is. Nobody's confirmed to me that Leeds United are in fact going to submit a bid because, as Jim and Ernst have been saying all summer long, it's great to have interest in our players, but until we get an official bid, then it's not official. So yeah, I mean, until Leeds United actually offer a transfer fee to the Union, until Kai's actually gone, I really don't want to talk about all the noise around Kai Wagner. So I was going to make this, and this is my last time talking about all the rumors involving Kai Wagner until it's actually official, or unless something extremely big happens. But until then, yeah, this is no more Kai Wagner talk. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Kai Wagner to Leeds United. And keep in mind, I've seen a lot of Leeds United fans, British media saying, "Oh yeah, Kai Wagner's contract's up after the season." No, Kai has an option for the 2023 season, and I fully expect the Union to take up that option. So no, Kai does not run out of contract this year. And then the last bit of news I wanted to talk about last week, it was a really big talking point on Union Twitter. And people are asking, is it okay? Can I wear my Brendan Aronson Leeds United jersey to a Union game? And I was expecting, some conversations with this, but man, this tweet absolutely blew up. This conversation, Union fans were on one last week with this conversation. And so I was like, okay, well, this is a big talking point. I might as well bring this up on the podcast. And I know we're 26 minutes into the podcast, still haven't talked about the game. So go ahead and fast forward to 30 minutes. That if you guys want to hear me talk about the game, 30 minutes, I think, is when we'll get into the game. I don't know. Haven't decided yet, but we'll try to get this talking point about Brendan done fast. My thoughts is no. No, it is not okay to wear a Brendan Aronson Leeds United jersey to a Union game. Because you're going to a Union game supporting the Philadelphia Union. The Union, not Leeds United. Yes, I know Brendan Aronson jersey is because you guys are all proud that he played for the Union. I get it, right? I'm proud too that he's playing in the Premier League. He's looked great in the Premier League. He's looking great for the national team. But if you want to support Brendan Aronson, wear a Philadelphia Union Brendan Aronson jersey. That's what I would say. Yes, I see why people, like I said, want to wear this jersey. They want to support Brendan. They're proud that Brendan's playing in the Premier League. But you're going to a Union game. You're not going to a game that Brendan Aronson's playing in. You're not going to a Leeds United game. You're going to a Philadelphia Union game. And so it's always struck me the wrong way walking around the stadium, seeing fans wear other European team jerseys, and especially jerseys of teams that aren't even playing at the stadium. I've seen other MLS jerseys. I've seen Seattle Sounders. I've seen DC United jerseys. I've seen, I think, a Portland Timbers jersey in the past. I'm like, none of these teams are playing right now at Subaru Park. Why are you guys wearing another MLS team's jersey? It makes no sense to me. But, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go up to somebody and say, hey, why are you wearing that jersey? Take it off. You should be wearing some kind of Philadelphia Union gear. I'm not going to say that. No, not at all. But to me, like, if it was my decision, I'm going to a Union game. I'm not going to wear a jersey to another soccer team. I'm going to wear Philadelphia Union apparel. But I get it. People are going to, do what they want to do, and that's totally fine. If I had the choice, I'm not going to wear anything other than Union gear to a Union game. And I guess my question is to you listeners, okay, so if we can all agree that you shouldn't wear other soccer teams' jerseys to a Union game, then is it okay for fans to wear other Philly sports teams' jerseys / apparel? I don't know. That's one that I think would be a good talking point. Maybe people had this conversation on social media. I just didn't see it. In my opinion, I think that's okay because you're supporting Philadelphia, and the Union are a Philadelphia team. I know they play in Chester, and a lot of you guys listening to this podcast are probably going to bring that up. Like, oh, they're not in Philadelphia proper; they're in Chester, but they're in PA. You're supporting other PA teams, so I feel like that's okay to wear Eagles gear, Phillies gear, Flyers gear. But would love to know what you guys think. Is it okay to wear other Philly sports teams jerseys / apparel? But let's go ahead and talk about this Philadelphia Union versus Chicago Fire game. And right away, the talk as soon as the lineup came out was, friends are like Jack McGlynn starting over Jose Martinez, Leon Flach moving to the 6, Bizo's still starting? Why can't Nate Harrell get into the starting lineup for the Union anymore? And we'll talk about Bizo here in a little bit, but if you guys haven't heard, this was the reasoning that Jim Curtin gave why Jose Martinez didn't start the game.
Jose's one of our best players. That's clear. So what happened this week? Jose had a family situation that that'll remain private and internal. So he missed training. He missed a significant amount of training this week. So we just thought, without having him, day in and day out for the week, and also being away with his family, not being able to train and get the reps, we thought that the best decision was to have guys that trained fully this week to perform. So he understood that. I think he came into the game and helped us a bit, but he'll certainly play a big role in Dallas. So again, it's a little bit of a build-in rotation that happened. We've gotten results now at home with whoever's on the field. We've been missing players. We've had different guys in or out, but we've done a good job stepping up. So again, it's a situation that was, a family matter that caused him to miss the beginning of the week of training. Again, it'll stay inside exactly what that was. I think we can all respect that and some privacy with his family. But overall, he's one of our most important players. So, he's going to be back out on the field ASAP.
Yeah, and I think, Jim handled that question completely the right way, saying that Jose is one of our most important players. He's one of our best players. He's going to play a role against Dallas. And that's all we needed to hear, right? Was that he was dealing with some family issues, and Jack McGlynn was at practice, and we felt comfortable playing Leon Flach at the 6, like we did against Houston, and playing Jack on the left side of the diamond, also like we did against Houston. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything to that. Respect what Jim Curtin said, and I don't think the Union missed not having Jose Martinez start at all. And so I guess my thing is, and Jim Curtin, confirmed this a week or so ago. He said, he's going to pick his midfielders by the opponent and how players do in training. So I think that was a good game to have Jack McGlynn start against Chicago, where they did a good job when we played in Chicago with their 2 6s. And this time, Union were able to get by Chicago's 2 holding midfielders with ease. But I thought the Union started this game very well with getting Mikael and Julian going early on. You had Julian get caught offsides with his first shot, which Gaga makes a good save. And then Gaga makes a good save in the 9th minute on Mikael Uhre with his foot. And you got to give Chicago credit, though. They came at the Union with Torres and Mueller right after the Mikael Uhre chance. You had 2 huge chances in the 13th minute from Chicago where Casper makes a runoff of Jack Elliott's backside. He's running towards the far post. Casper heads the ball down to an unmarked Torres, which Kai Wagner needed to do a little bit of a better job there following Torres, in my opinion. And, that wasn't the only time in this game that the Union left somebody wide open in their own 18-yard box. You had Mueller sending across, and after that, Chicago had a chance. That whole play developed because Mueller was able to dribble by Leon Flach, keep the ball in play. And because Leon Flach followed Chris Mueller, that pulled everyone else out of position for the Union. You had Jack Elliott and Kai Wagner marking Torres, which left Sekulic unmarked. Wagner did a good job to block the shot, but Sekulic was still able to get a shot off. And in my opinion, should have never have had the opportunity to shoot. Kai Wagner, like I said, just did a good job to block the shot, but after he blocked it, the ball fell to Casper, and the Union had 3 players go and press Casper as soon as the ball fell to him, but Casper was able to get the shot off and force a big save from Andre Blake. And so I thought it was important that the Union would go ahead and get the first goal of the game right after that, after they had a lot of pressure from Chicago. The Union, like Jim Curtin says all the time, we might bend, but we didn't break. And that's exactly what happened there during a chaotic 2-3 minutes of nonstop attack from Chicago. A huge goal from Tino Gazag, and we'll break down the goals here in a little bit. But I thought, okay, look, just because we've seen a lot of attack from Chicago in the first half, if we don't get a second goal, Chicago's going to go into the half with a ton of confidence, a ton of belief that they're still in this game, especially seeing how the Union left a couple of players unmarked in the box. And Jim talked about it. The Union couldn't have started the second half worse than they did. The Union were, I wouldn't say lucky, great awareness from Jack Elliott to follow up that play, but they definitely needed that second goal going into the half. And we saw it. The Union started the second half terribly, where Chicago had 3 shots off in the first 4 minutes in the half. And the third shot was a goal from Chris Mueller, where I think the Union were a little bit caught off guard. They were caught by surprise. Chicago came out of the half with more hustle, more urgency going for it. And I do think that it is a little bit lucky that, after Chicago scored, the Union woke up and corrected their mistakes for the most part. Because when you look at 3 out of the 4 goals scored by the Union, they were all typical Union goals where they hit Chicago on the counterattack, and we haven't really seen that often this season. I mean, we've definitely seen it more in the second half of the season with Carranza, Uhre, and Gaza getting used to playing with each other. But that reminded me of a Union counterattack from 2020, 2019, just your typical Union attack where they link up well, transition from defense to offense, move the ball quickly, and 3 out of 4 of those goals were scored that way. So, I mean, great to see the Union getting back with urgency in the counterattack. But if you go ahead and look, tactically, how the Union changed their approach to attacking Chicago this time around compared to when these two teams played in Chicago. In Chicago, the Union were playing a lot of long balls into the strikers, and then this time around, that really wasn't the case. And Jim Curtin explained what they did differently tactically at home against Chicago.
Both guys are comfortable, coming off of the center backs. We want to have balance. We want to give teams different looks. I think you saw us drop Ollie and Jack McGlynn a little lower in the buildups and let our outside backs go higher to create some overload. So, again, we beat a team that was in really good form in Chicago, but it started with, our strikers doing a really good job, first and foremost, setting the tone with their work rate defensively. And then from there, I have no concern about us creating chances in this building. We're going to create 10, 15 chances to score goals. And you've seen us score a lot of goals in Subaru Park this season. So it starts with what our foundation is, which is strong defending. So you can talk about the forwards and their movement and who is where, but it really, most importantly, starts with them setting the tone defensively for us. And that's what leads to our success.
I brought up to Jim how it looked like Mikael was dropping a little bit deeper to collect the ball. And Julian Carranza and Daniel Gazag were staying a little bit higher up. So it kind of looked like Mikael was playing as the 10 while Daniel and Julian were playing as the 2 strikers. And so you guys just heard the reasoning why the Union had success against Chicago. And so the whole reason why I brought that up was because during the week, I brought up to Jim Curtin how the Union have struggled this season playing against teams that deploy 2 holding midfielders. Where overall, the Union have, more wins than they do losses. They have 5 wins compared to the 3 losses, and then they have 3 draws on the season when they've played teams that deploy 2 sixes. But, my argument would be all 3 of the losses this season have been won. Okay, Jim's right, on the road. But they've all been against teams that have deployed 2 holding midfielders. And the Union have got the first goal only in one of those games, and that was in Toronto. And they've only scored 1 goal in each of those games minus Chicago when they played against teams that played 2 number 6s in those losses. Toronto, they lost that game 2-1. Cincinnati, we know they lost that game 3-1. And in Chicago, they lost that game 1-0. And Jim's right. They've won a lot of games, more games than they've lost against teams that have played 2 sixes. you go ahead and look that New York City game in New York, 2-0 win for the Union. Okay, that's a good win right there. Charlotte, 2-0 win. I feel like you're expected to beat Charlotte, brand new team in MLS. You're playing them at the beginning of the season. I know they changed a couple things up at halftime tactically, so they got away from playing two defensive midfielders, but they did start the game with two defensive midfielders, and you got an early goal in that game. The Columbus game, 1-0 win. Like, we all know that was complete luck from the Union, where Martinez has that shot. Was it a cross? Eloy Room drops it. It's an own goal. The Union won that game 1-0. So, they didn't create a ton of chances after they got that early goal against Columbus. You go ahead and look in Nashville. They go up in that game 1-0. They gave up a late penalty. Union, after they scored that first goal, they really weren't creating a lot of opportunities. Against Cincinnati at home, the Union score first, and then they can't create anything else. They sit deep, thinking that, okay, yeah, one goal is going to be enough against Cincinnati. Cincinnati comes a couple minutes after the Union score, tie the game at 1-1. Union struggled to create chances in the second half. The 2-1 victory against New York City, I do think the Union were fortunate because the ball took a deflection off of Corey Burke. The Union get an early goal in that game, struggled to create anything else in the game. New York City bring a lot of pressure in the 60th minute until the rest of the game. And we saw New York City get a late penalty in that game, and they potentially had a chance to get a second penalty. So I don't think the Union played great against New York City. But at the same time, we did get 2 wins. And then you had DC United, a 7-0 victory, outlier. And then Orlando City, a 1-0 victory. That was a good game. So I would say, yeah, the Union played well in that game against Orlando, playing 2 6s. But yeah, I know it's only 3 losses, but the Union aren't scoring a lot of goals against teams that play with 2 6s. And I know maybe I just bored some of you guys to death, but it is a big concern of mine, even though the Union have wins against teams that have played the 6. But, Saturday night, the Union changed what they did tactically, didn't struggle at all against Chicago with their 2 6s. And so, maybe it isn't that big of a concern. And I do want to talk about Jack McGlynn here real quick. I thought he played all right. Wasn't his typical game where he dominates with his passing. But I think for most part, your best lineup's probably going to be with Jose Martinez and Leon Flach. But there is, like I said earlier, there's going to be opponents where the Union come against where you're going to need Jack McGlynn in there, especially against teams that are going to play low blocks. You're going to want somebody in there who can thread the needle with the passes, and that is Jack McGlynn. But for the most part, against most teams, I think Leon Flach and Jose Martinez are your 2 midfielders that you select, and not Jack McGlynn and Leon Flach or Jack McGlynn and Jose Martinez. But speaking of Leon Flach, he was dominant, in my opinion. He was dribbled by 2 times on the night. Yes, that Chris Mueller chance where I talked about at the beginning where he got across into the box. But Leon Flach was really, really good. And fans all the time talk about, oh, Leon Flach's not good offensively. Leon Flach can't pass the ball. Leon completed 82% of his passes. He had 39 touches, 7 passes into the final third, 5 interceptions, 7 ball recoveries. Those 7 passes into the final third, that should tell you everything you need to know, that Leon Flach's not going sideways to sideways. He's not going backwards. He's thinking forward. And that's what we've seen the last 7 games because I looked at it. His average on the season, passing-wise, is 78.4. But if you look at his last 7 games, he has an 86% completed passer rating. He is doing way better than I thought he would be doing. Way better than a lot of fans give him credit for. People just want to have this same narrative, oh, Leon Flach can't pass. Well, look at the numbers. Leon Flach is improving. You look at his progressive passes on the season, 1.7. He has 1.5 in his last 7 games. Okay, it's a little bit down. And then touches, he has 30.6 touches he averages on the season. Where the last 7 games, he has 34 touches. And so I asked Leon Flach, there's been a lot of talk where, okay, yeah, Leon Flach struggles offensively. But I brought up these numbers to Leon Flach. I asked him, how does it feel like he's getting in the attack? And this is what Leon had to say.
We had the 1 week break, and after this 1 week break, I was actually at home, and I think that time at home, I don't know, it gave me something, I don't know what, and then it started with the Cincinnati game, which was pretty good for me, and I think since then, I also check sometimes like the passing stats, because overall I think stats are something maybe for the books and not always relatable. If you just say, yeah, he played good because of the stats, I think eye test is the most important thing. So no, but I'm happy and I'm like improving. That's what I feel, that's what I see. But I also do a lot of extra stuff now with the coaching stuff. I think that helped a lot. And I really try to improve that. But I also feel like much more confident with the ball. I know like in which positions I can go now. And I think last year I helped the team, especially on the defensive side. But I think right now I can also make plays on the other side. So now I feel confident. And no, I'm just happy that we have a good run now. And yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, he's right. It is going in the right direction. And I think my biggest takeaway is, yeah, Leon looks at stats. Stats are good and everything, but the biggest thing is the eye test. And what doesn't show up on the regular stat sheets? That's the amount of miles that Leon Flach runs, the positioning of Leon Flach, the runs that Leon Flach's making where he doesn't get the ball. None of that stuff shows up on your regular stat sheets. You got to look at the advanced analytics. And so I would encourage fans, pay attention the next couple games to Leon Flach, the runs that Leon Flach's making. Because Leon Flach has been improving. Like he said himself, he feels like he's improving. He's spending more time with the coaching staff, trying to get better offensively. And that's what I think you want as Philadelphia Union fans. You want players admitting, okay, look, I know I can improve. I don't think too good where, okay, yeah, I don't need to train extra hard. I don't need to look at tape and everything. Leon Flach wants to get better. He said last year that he knows that offensively his passing needs to get better. In his last 7 games, 86% completed passes. He's making runs that his teammates aren't finding. They're not passing him the ball. He's getting in more advanced positions. Leon Flach is having a terrific second half of this season. And I just wish the narrative of, oh, Leon Flach's not good offensively would stop. Because the second half of the season, Leon Flach has been amazing. And so then later on, I asked Leon Flach about his connections with Mikael and Julian, especially the cutback, which we've seen a couple games this season, especially against Cincinnati. And he had the cutback in another game that's passing my mind.
Honestly, really good. I think Mika and Julian are both great players and also great persons. That makes it always, I think, a little bit easier if you have also like a connection off the field. And I get along with them really well. So especially with Mika, like because he's playing a little bit more on the left, I would say. So it's great and really important to have a good connection because I know he's running in behind. He wants the ball like maybe more on his run than like just like on his feet. So no, it's great. And I also know if I get the ball there, I don't even have to look up because I know Julian is like almost at some point there. And I think that's also how we got the assist against Washington. So no, I think it's pretty good to understand where everybody's going because sometimes you don't have maybe the time to look up and see where everybody is. So I think we have a great relationship. I think also Daniel, Julian, and Mika, they have a really good relationship. And I would say the whole team right now is playing as a whole team, as a unit, and I think that's what makes us strong. We don't have that one superstar. I think we have a great unit, and that's how we win our games right now.
And I apologize for the loud banging and the noises. It does get really, really loud in the locker room, and it's where the family's kids go and hang out after the game and everything, so I do apologize for that. But look, the last thing that Leon said was, we do not have a superstar. How many times do we talk about that on this podcast? How many times as Union fans do we talk about the team is the superstar? The players know it. They know that there is one player on this team that's bigger than the club. They all know that they have a job to do, that the team is the superstar. And so to hear, again, just Leon say, yeah, I feel like I'm getting better with Julian, with Mikael Uhre. The connection between Gazdag, Carranza, and Uhre is excellent. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear players admitting that, okay, yeah, they're noticing difference. And so a really, really great interview. Leon Flach was fantastic to talk about. And like I said, I just hope that the narrative that Leon Flach's not good offensively just dies. But let's go ahead quickly because You guys know I hate doing podcasts that go over an hour long. I always try to keep them within 45 minutes, but lately they've been going over. So quickly, 3 stars. Number 1, Julian Carranza, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 chances created, 2 ball recoveries. He had excellent movement on the night. And it goes back to what Leon was talking about where, okay, yeah, it's all about the eye test. Julian's movement isn't going to pop up on the stat sheet. You got to look at the advanced analytics. And Julian's movement all night long, the eye test, was fantastic. Number 2, Daniel Gazdag, 1 goal, 1 assist, 3 chances created, 55 touches, 5 passes into the final third, 4 ball recoveries. And this is the 7th straight game now that Daniel has either a goal or an assist. And Daniel, he also mentioned in the press conference that, he thinks that his weakest part of his game is creating. And he said that he is trying to improve, but he feels like sometimes his teammates miss the chances that he's setting up. And yeah, Daniel is right. There's been a couple games where he plays really good 3 balls and his teammates miss the ball, the shot gets blocked, the goalie makes a good save. But, again, it's just good. It's refreshing to hear players say, yep, I know I have mistakes. I know I'm not perfect. And, I'm trying to improve. I want to improve. I want to get better for the team. And to hear both Daniel Gazdag, Leon Flach both say that, that's got to make you excited to be a Philadelphia Union fan, to hear this team in first place in the Eastern Conference. They're separating themselves from everybody else now. This team's not perfect. And the players are admitting, look, even though we're in first place, we still want to improve. We know we can improve. And so that should make you really excited as Union fans. Number 3 on the night, Olivier Mbazo, 1 assist, 76% passing accuracy, 4 to 5 dribbles completed, 2 out of 3 successful crosses, 2 for 2 on tackles, 8 ball recoveries. There you have it, my 3 stars on the night. Now let's go ahead and talk about the goal breakdown, starting with that Daniel Gazdag goal of the night, in my opinion. And so this play comes from the Union going and winning the ball back in their own defensive half. They're going to go ahead and just play the ball around, pass it around. Bedoya eventually gets the ball, plays the ball up to Mikael Uhre. Mikael makes a terrific touch, chest down, goes back towards his own half. But that's fine because he has Julian Carranza that's isolated 1v1 with the center back, and he has Daniel Gazdag now bursting into a ton of open space. As soon as Mikael Uhre takes that chest down, there is a ton of wide open space for Daniel Gazdag to run into. And so, yes, Mikael could have played that ball into Daniel Gazdag as he's running by, and then the center back would have had to have came and cut off Daniel Gazdag, and then that would have left Julian Carranza wide open on the far side. But that's not what Mikael does. He goes and plays the ball to Julian Carranza, terrific ball out wide. Daniel Gazdag, his sprint speed to come from his own defensive half past the 2 6s of the Chicago Fire and run into all that wide open space. That is just terrific hustle, awareness from Daniel Gazdag. Great pass from Mikael Uhre. Like I said, this is one of 3 great counterattacking goals from the Union. So great ball out from Mikael Uhre out to Julian Carranza. Daniel Gazdag gets by the 2 center backs, has so much space to run into. Julian Carranza plays a terrific ball into Daniel Gazdag, and Daniel Gazdag is going to go ahead and just absolutely put Navarro on skates with this cutback. Terrific cutback. And I honestly thought once he did that cutback that the chance was probably gone, because we've seen it a couple times where Daniel does a cutback and then the defender gets in his way, blocks a shot, goalie makes a good save. But no, not this time. Selena thinks that Gazdag is going to go ahead and shoot this ball down low. He's in terrible positioning, by the way. He is so far out of his goal, leaves the whole left side of the goal wide open. And so Selena thinks that that's where the shot's going to go. So he's already committed to diving down. And Daniel Gazdag sees that. And he chips the ball into the net. Come on now. What a terrific finish for your 12th goal of the season. The confidence of Daniel Gazdag so far in the second half of the season. It's been all season long, but 7 straight games with a goal or assist. Daniel Gazdag is flying. The chemistry, the counterattack between Mikael, Julian, and Daniel Gazdag has been terrific, and we see it in the 16th minute in this game. Now the next goal with Jack Elliott. This is just great heads-up play from Jack Elliott, as we all know. Comes from a corner kick from the Union. Kai Wagner sends the ball in. Chicago Fire, terrible clearance. Doesn't even leave the box. And so Bizo's going to go ahead and get to this ball. Has a powerful header towards goal. And at first, you're like, is this header going to chip Gaga? Because he's off his line. He's not on his line. And this ball has some power and it has some height to it. And it's like, no way. This is going to chip Salina. And as soon as Bizo heads this ball in, and Jack Elliott, everybody else, Chicago Fire, Union players are just ball watching. But Jack Elliott has the awareness to just follow up this header and, react in case Gaga spills it. And it's exactly what happens. The ball hits off the crossbar. Gaga thinks he's going to catch it, drops it, and Jack Elliott's right there to tap the ball into the net. Great awareness, great finish from Jack Elliott. Great assist there from the crossbar. And Jack Elliott gets his first goal of the season. Then the third goal of the night came from the Chicago Fire from Chris Mueller. This was a mess up from Jack Elliott and Kai Wagner. Jack Elliott's going to go ahead and try to play this out of the back. Receives the ball from Andre Blake. It's going to go ahead and take a couple of dribbles. And then Chicago do a good job. Kasper Schmelker does a good job to take away Jack from passing to his right. And, a lot of fans give Kasper a lot of hate for, he doesn't press. He's not good. But Kasper does a good job here to force Jack Elliott to go ahead and pass the ball left to Kai Wagner. You have Torres now who's going towards Kai Wagner, pressuring him. And it all started with Kasper Schmelker pressuring Jack Elliott. And so it's not a great pass to Kai Wagner from Jack Elliott. And so Torres is going to go get into Wagner's face. Kai looks like he wants to pass forward, but because Torres shuts him down so fast, he says, all right, let me go ahead and pass to Jack Elliott. So he passes to Jack Elliott. Not a great pass back to Jack. Jack goes ahead, takes a good touch, gets away from Kasper. It's a bad pass from Jack Elliott to Jack McGlynn, and so it's turned over. You have Bizo who's pushed up the field because he expects the Union to attack, and so that's fine. It's not Bizo's fault. The Union were telling him all night long to get forward, to get forward. You heard Jim Curtin earlier say how they wanted Jack and Bedoya to drop deeper and everything, have their fullbacks create overloads, go farther up the pitch. That's exactly what Bizo was doing on this play. And because it's a bad pass from Elliott to McGlynn, Chicago pick it up. Bizo's out of position. Glesnes is out of position. And so Shaqiri's able to slot this ball into Mueller. It's a terrific finish from Chris and gives Chicago a lot of belief. 2-1 at this point. And so right afterwards, the Union are going to go ahead and capitalize in the 53rd minute with Julian Carranza. And again, typical Union goal, counterattacking goal. Comes from a goal kick from Andre Blake. He's going to go ahead and hoof this ball up the field. Chicago wins the initial header, but the header goes to nobody. Daniel Gazdag is the first one to react. And Daniel Gazdag has terrific awareness on this play where he's just going to go ahead and chip the ball over the back line. Mikael makes a great run in to get by the two center backs. And like I said, just great awareness from Daniel Gazdag to see that run. Gaga makes a good save here with his foot and arm. But Julian Carranza, follows up the save and gets by his marker and is able to chip the ball in the back of the net. Just, again, you had 2 plays on the night from the Union that was great awareness from their players. 3 counterattacking goals, and the last counterattacking goal came with Corey Burke. And so this play actually happens in the midfield where Chicago turned the ball over. Great pressure from Jose Martinez to force a turnover. They're going to go ahead, the Union are going to go ahead and pick up this ball with Ali Bedoya. Plays a great ball into Daniel Gazdag. The Union at this point in time have a 5-on-4. And so they have numbers. They have Kai Wagner wide open on the left side of the field. You have Corey Burke taking on the left-sided center back and Sekulic. You have Sullivan, who's ahead of his marker, I believe it is at the time, and then you have Biza, who's isolated in a ton of space out wide right. And so guys like sees that, plays the ball to Olivier Biza. Biza's going to go ahead and just one time crosses into the box. And, I mean, it was a terrific pass from Biza where, okay, Chicago tried to shut this down, but they have 4 players that this ball gets by, where none of them do anything. Corey Burke has a great finish, terrible goalkeeping from Gaga Selena. And it's not the first time on the night that we saw Gaga pretty disappointing in the net. To the Union's credit, they made good runs, got in behind multiple times, and great finish there by Corey Burke. But like I told you guys, hate having episodes that are over an hour long, and we're definitely over an hour long. So we're gonna go ahead and skip Blunder of the Week. It was going to go to Kylian Mbappe from P Money Sign G for not continuing his run over the weekend. If you guys were interested in who gets Blunder of the Week, so I guess technically we did Blunder of the Week, but I didn't really talk into it, go in on P Money Sign G and Mbappe. But if you guys aren't following the podcast, go ahead and follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the website, thefreekick.net. And honestly, guys, there's not going to be a preview episode with Dallas. There's not going to be a preview episode for DC this week just because, midweek games, these short weeks, it's hard to get people committed, commentators on the podcast when it's on short notice. So, no preview episodes for Dallas or DC. I will do my best to do a preview article on the website. I know I told you guys I would try to do it against Chicago. I really got to get on my game. I got to stop procrastinating. I got to prioritize both the podcast and the website. So I will try my best to do a preview episode on the website. Definitely will give you guys a review episode as always. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.